what are the positive developments and what are the more negative or enduring negative elements after we talk about this end date? Let me tick them off quickly. Let me start with the more positive developments. One, I think there is really a sense of urgency, also with the Afghan political leaders, who are not necessarily all in government, that they have to come to solutions, to agreements before the elections of April 2014. There are many talks going on between political leaders, as you know. The Democracy Charter is one example of September last year. That all didn't exist in 2008 when I was there. There was no movement whatsoever in that direction. Also, reconciliation, another big topic, and the office in Doha also agreed during the last meeting between Presidents Obama and Karzai in Washington that this Doha office indeed will be opened, is, in comparison to 2008, a new development. And I know that there is a lot of skepticism whether it will lead to an agreement before the elections, but at least the talks are there. Then I would say Pakistan, and we have a speaker from Pakistan in our audience, and she will speak today or tomorrow. But my observation is, from where I was in 2008 and where I am now, that there is major movement. Shift is maybe too much, but there's major movement from the Pakistani side. For example, statements by General Kayani recently that a stable and peaceful Afghanistan is also in the interest of Pakistan is perhaps not completely new, but the sort of actions he connects to that, for example, in the weekly briefings at ISAF headquarters, which I attend every day, by the way, but once a week now, we have a Pakistani brigadier general in the meeting, together, by the way, with Afghan colleagues. That's a new development. It didn't exist in 2008. Also, the cross-border talks between the military have advanced enormously. The regional dimension. When I was there in 2008, a forum like Hearts of Asia didn't exist. And as you know, this is a forum where all the neighbors of Afghanistan, even the remote neighbors, Turkey is participating, all interested countries in the region are there. That was a forum that didn't exist. And to quote Deputy Foreign Minister Ludin, Javed Ludin, some of you will know him, he said to me, you know what, this is really a good development, and it's partly a consequence of the fact that you, the international community, is there and has made clear in the Bonn conference, Chicago and Tokyo, and I'm not going to spell it all out, have made this enduring commitment, at least not for the next year, but for the next decade, that they start to take Afghanistan as a country serious and accept a forum where Afghanistan is a bit at the center of the discussions. I mentioned the enduring international commitment, which is new with the focus of transition and transformation. What is also striking after 5 years coming back is how Kabul has grown again. They call traffic jams progress. I think it's true. Not that it's comfortable, but they are there, much more than 5 years ago. And the urbanization, by the way, has sociologically, I'm not a sociologist, but it has clear consequences. I mean, maybe not for this election, but the increasing degree of education, 10 years of 8,000 kids going to school, will have consequences. I mean, there's no way back to 92 or other years you sometimes hear. I don't think so. The position of women, I will put them both in the positive and the negative category, because otherwise I will be in trouble with Madame Barakzai. But I see quite a few women like Madame Barakzai actively speaking up in Afghanistan, and that is more than 5 years ago. Again, is my humble impression.
We talk about peace. I've been through quite a number of insurgencies. The fact is that peace is as much a weapon of war in negotiations as military force. And we have seen that in Vietnam, we have seen it in Nepal, we have seen it in China, and we have seen it in many ways in what is happening here. I get rather discouraged when I see constant talk about the peace process. For example, the recent conference in France, and there is not one mention of what the Emirates actually said about the peace negotiations afterwards in the press. The metric that is being used is often enemy-initiated attacks. Let me say that is a fundamentally dishonest metric in an insurgency. Insurgents that know you are leaving do not have to keep attacking you. Security. If you look at the reporting in the 1230 report from the Office of the Secretary of Defense, in the reporting from the Special Inspector General, in the reporting for the Congressional Research Service, every one of those reports shows that there is a higher level of violence in Afghanistan today than there was in 2009.
Without political transition, there will be no successful transition as such. I'm convinced. And if I look at the way how Afghan partners, political leaders, the administration, legal opposition, but also the civil society, how seriously they are approaching these matters, I'm encouraged. Do they have a solution? No, they don't have a solution. Do they have a sort of emerging national accord on which fundaments they will build the way forward? Not necessarily. They have elements. They are developing it. There are different efforts. Is it inclusive enough? Not necessarily. It is not inclusive enough, in my opinion. But is there a progress? Yes, there is a progress. Economic development, I agree. The bubble economy is disappearing. Does it mean that the country will collapse? Not. Part of the growth of the GDP, whatever measured imperfectly, etc., was because of the growth in agriculture last year. It's an undeniable fact. This is corroborated by facts. I'm not saying that all the statistics is perfect, but definitely this is corroborated by facts. And we see these kind of elements that can, again, serve, in my opinion, as good enough series of arguments that would go counter all these predictions that after 2014 there is doom and gloom, chaos, collapse, and civil war. Not necessarily. From my perspective, take it from my perspective, personal perspective, but also from institutional perspective, we don't see it necessarily this way. There are risks, huge risks, but we see it as a more probable development that this kind of doom and gloom scenarios will not happen.
Extremely little. I believe that despite the $1 million spent on surveys to see how Afghans see us, we have not spent so much as a tenth of that on studying Afghan civil society, less than 10 of that. And I wonder how much of all the money allocated to cooperation effort has gone towards civil society. An in-depth study will reveal a great many surprising things. It will show that there are unimaginable associative forms at the village level, and that we have underestimated, for example, the religious network in our dangerous equation of mullah equals danger.
There should be no doubt about us Afghans that we have firm determination to succeed because it is our national survival.
Second, this will not be just a NATO affair. 8 partners that are already contributing to ISAF have already committed their contributions to the post-2014 mission. So do not dismiss the fact that the post-2014 remains a broad effort with a critical input provided by NATO.
And democracies tend not to do so either. But anocracies, those states that are either making a transition from autocracy or away from democracy, do have problems with violations of human rights, the breakdown of institutions and the assertion of authority and the coercive apparatus of the state against citizens. And so this curvilinear relationship is one that holds across large-scale statistical analysis. So unfortunately, I put Afghanistan sort of in that middle category at the moment because it is making that transition away from authoritarianism towards democracy, but may find itself with those nascent institutions and problems of guarantee of civil and political rights. The other one, I guess more contentious, is I was having discussions over coffee about this cultural question, the question about civil society raised by Mr. Jordan. I was actually really interested in this because it goes back to key questions of philosophy and nation state citizenship.
And of course, you remember the exemplary role of Egypt in signing peace with Israel in 1979, changing the entire shape of our own region. Therefore, with all these said, everything must be done to ensure a very smooth and effective democratic transition in Egypt, despite the very severe challenges and the bumps we are undergoing. Just one word on the historical relationship between the Arab world and Afghanistan. We have a minister present. The Arab world has benefited a great deal from the enlightenment and the scholarly excellence. Conversely, some argue that this should not become a backdoor. This should not become a backdoor for the spread of militant religious Islamic fundamentalism. The role of moderate Al-Azhar University and the institution itself should be augmented, although Al-Azhar itself is at stake.
Actually, from the beginning, there were a lot of other parallel institutions to the Afghan government. And PRT was definitely one of them. And it was very much necessary because at the beginning, the Afghan capability and capacity was very, very limited. So PRTs have served for different purposes, including security and also economic development, reconstruction, and all that. But at the moment, the arrangement with the international community is such that gradually the PRT's role will be transferred to the local government, and the donor community and will channel their aid through the Afghan government and also give their advice and professionalism to the government so that they can benefit from the experience of the PRT. Also, in the meantime, I mean, they have to stand on their own feet sooner or later. That has to come, and should not rely indefinitely on PRTs or others.